We're going to give it just a second to allow participants to roll in. It usually takes just a minute. So we'll give it just a second here before we get started. Good morning and welcome to today's Wyoming Community Navigator Program webinar. My name is Mandy Bailey and I'm the Advising and Education Director here for the Wyoming Community Navigator Program. I'm going to be your facilitator today, working behind the scenes with any technical difficulties that may arise. So I'll do my best to fix any issues that come up. Also, make sure you look at our chat. We'll drop some helpful links in that. Also, if you want to unmute yourself to ask questions or drop questions in the chat, that would be great as well. Just to give you a little bit of background on our Wyoming Community Navigator Program. The Wyoming Community Navigator Program is funded through the U.S. Small Business Administration and utilizes the Wyoming Entrepreneurial Support Network to reduce barriers that all small businesses often face, including those owned by groups such as veterans, women, those from rural communities and communities of color. Wyoming Community Navigator accomplishes its goals by using a hub and spoke model to pursue their collective efforts. And we do this by providing training, access to capital, and access to other resources to help small business owners build resiliency and ultimately be the driving force behind Wyoming's economic recovery. Today, we're going to hear from Liz Jameson how to get more leads and increase your sales. And just to give you a brief background, Liz owned a website design and development firm for many years where she began to coach entrepreneurs in branding, sales, and marketing. There, she worked on the online presence, collateral, and copy for over 100 different small businesses. So I'm going to turn it over to Liz for today's webinar.
Thanks, Mandy. Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Super excited to be here. Thanks for carving out some time to attend. Let me go ahead and pull up my slides here. There we go. All right, looks like we just have a small group today, but some more folks might come in as we're talking. We'll see. All right, wonderful. So welcome. We're here to talk about how to get more leads and increase your sales in your business. And of course, this is a super important conversation, right? Because sales are the lifeblood of your business, right? Having sales occur and being profitable are the way that you earn the right to stay in business, to keep making your difference, to keep doing your thing, to keep doing social good in your community, right? If we don't have sales occurring or we're not profitable, then we put that right at risk to continue and keep doing our good work through the business. So this is a really fun and really important conversation. So good on you for showing up today, actually carving out time to work on your business, not just in it, right? It's always very compelling, right, to want to put out fires all the time, right? There's plenty on the long list to do for most of us all the time, but we can actually get such great benefit out of carving out some pieces of time to plan, right? To create intentions, to be deliberate, right? To work on the business, not just in it. So turns out that's a really big deal. And you've distinguished yourselves already today by showing up for that conversation. So thank you. And I hope we'll have some fun here and give you some great value that you can take and put to use straight away. Yeah, that's my intention here. So if you can be present, we entrepreneurs are idea people often. And so sometimes we are easily distracted, by the squirrel. But hopefully you'll be really engaged in this conversation today and looking as we're talking, about how you can apply this information in your own particular business as we're talking all this through. So this is me. I'm Liz Jameson. I'm a certified business advisor and a certified global business professional. I started in 1998 when I started a website design and development firm at that time. And that's really where I started to coach entrepreneurs. I had to help them get clear about who they were as a brand and who their ideal client was and what messaging would resonate with that ideal client, right? In order to create the right websites, brand identities, and marketing pieces for them. So anyway, I'm super passionate about empowering entrepreneurs, right? The best use of me is to support you, empower you to do social good in your own community. So that's why I showed up here today. And just a little plug for the small business development centers here. And if you're not participating already, I would invite you to participate with the small business development centers. Small business development centers provide a one-to-one confidential, no-cost business advising services. They can act as an accountability partner, sounding board, help you kind of co-create the future that you want for yourself and an action plan to get there, right? Sometimes entrepreneurship can be a lonely path, and maybe your spouse might not even get, what it is that you're up to with the business. And so it's great to have this outside set of eyes that can plan together with you, cheer you on, help you overcome obstacles, and so on. And any business topic is fair game to bring to your SBDC advisor. So just saying, that service is available to you, and hope you take advantage of it. So today, we're going to distinguish sales from marketing, right? And give you a framework for thinking about sales and marketing. A lot of people kind of collapse them, right? And they're kind of jumbled together. And of course, they have some overlaps. So we'll talk about the purpose of each. And then we're going to talk about lead generation, some different ways to get more leads into your business so that you can have more sales conversations. We'll talk about some ways to structure and measure your sales game and how to improve your close ratio. Close ratio is like, if I have 10 sales conversations, then I know I close, let's say 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10 or something like that, right? So that'll be something that will improve over time as you practice. Okay, if you've done any trainings of mine, you've probably seen this slide. It's just the one slide I use in almost all my presentations, right? On the importance of planning. It does not do to leave a live dragon out of your calculations. If you live near one, and if you have a business, you live near one, right? We all learned that during COVID. There are things that influence your business that you cannot control. So we actually have to be better planners than others, always creating contingency plans for what if, right? What if you can't work for a little while? What if, you can't sell in the way you're used to selling? What if, something changes in the marketplace or the technology changes that impacts your business, right? So again, good on you for showing up to do some planning and deliberate intention setting today. So we had a separate conversation recently. I believe there's a recorded training from my last Wyoming presentation here, which was about clarifying your ideal client profile and your messaging. But the gist of that, the bottom line of that was, we got to find out who our ideal client is, the demographic data about them, right? Like what zip code do they live in? What's their annual household income? Maybe what are their hobbies and interests? What kind of car do they drive? Do they have kids or not? And so on, right? These are demographic pieces of data. And we also have to find out the psychographics of our avatar or ideal client, right? Psychographics are how do they think and feel? How do they make decisions, buying decisions about our particular kind of product or service? And what are their values, right, that play into that. So those are all really useful things to know about your ideal client. And if you understand those things, then you can actually enter the conversation that's already going on in your prospect's head, right? That's what we all want to do. That's the most effective way to generate sales, is to understand your client really well and to enter into that conversation they're already having in their own head about your product or service. And let's see. So to that end, we want to clarify our messaging, right? And determine what will best resonate, what kind of language will best resonate with our particular ideal client. And again, if you want to delve deeper into that, you can look at the recording from the last session, which we talked all about that. Okay. So here are some principles that come into play when you're designing your business model, and then your sales goals within it, right? I always invite people to look at what is the lifestyle that you want in two primary parameters, meaning how much time can you give the business each week or month, right? And how much money you want to take home from the business each month. So, I hear all the time people who they left their job they hated, it's 2 years down the road, now they are making less money and working more hours than they were in the job they hated before. That is because of a lack of planning, right? So just to underscore the importance of that. So when you go to design the future of your business, you're going to look at these parameters. How much do you want to take home? And how much time can you give the business each month? And we want to design the business model so that it can accomplish those two things. So if you know those two parameters, then we want to design a business model that will give you the lifestyle that you want. And in order to do that, one useful thing is to treat your salary like a fixed cost. Like that's what, just like you pay your rent every month, you pay yourself every month, such like that, right? And that way you design your sales game sufficiently, right? So it provides for you the whatever life that you want for you and your family, right? That's a really important piece. And so to know how much you really need to take home from your business each month, then you'll want to calculate your personal monthly break-even number. So that is just the total of all your expenses for the month, right? On the personal side of life. So it could be, you and your whole family together, if you have your money together, or it could be, whatever portion you contribute to the family's, paying the family's bills, something like that. But you'll want to know, okay, what is the minimum number that I had to take home from my business each month in order to just have life work, right? And so you can actually just write that all down. It's a great exercise if you haven't done it for a little while, right? And so you write down, your rent or mortgage is however much, your groceries each month, gasoline, if you have a car payment, if you have credit card payments, right? All of that you write down and add all those up, and include like entertainment and such like that too, right? So that we're actually coming up with a number that you need to take home that is that you can comfortably, make life work, right? If you know what that number is, then you have to consider too, there are taxes that we also have to consider. So we would need to know, what is your personal monthly break-even number after you pay taxes, right? So just figure that in there. And also for your business, when you go to approach creating your sales game or goals, right? I say game because I like to gamify sales. It's really makes it more fun. You'll want to know, what is your average unit sale, or AUS? That means what's the average transaction size in dollars, right? And we're, of course, always working to increase that average unit sale, right? Because, for instance, I had somebody I was working with who she sells popcorn, and she was selling a $4 small bag of popcorn. But there's a limited number of people who come to the fairs and markets and such where she sells. And so we upped her average unit sale. Now she sells a $10 family size bag of popcorn, so that even if there's a limited number of people, now she has a bigger sales number. Instead of 10 sales at $4 a piece, now she has 10 sales at $10 a piece, right? So that's the power of average unit sale. So you want to figure out what yours is. If you're not already present to that, maybe you have, one primary product that you usually sell, and your average unit sale is the price of one of those. Could be. And how do you increase your average unit sale? You bundle or package or make kits or gift baskets or gift boxes, and who knows, right? You bundle and package things together, or you offer some premium price items, right? So that you can increase your average unit sale. Of course, increasing your average unit sale is going to help you increase your overall sales, sometimes by a lot. So that's worth paying attention to. So once you know how much you need to take home from your business each month, and you know also what is your business monthly break-even number, right? What are your business expenses, your total business expenses, let's say, in an average month? Useful to know that too, yeah? So both of those numbers play into how you can potentially use this calculation that I give you on this slide. So if you hadn't already, generate an sales goal for yourself for 2023. What is your total sales number that you'd like to have for 2023, right? It's useful to have that clear intention, right? Because otherwise, how are you going to get where you want to go, right? Don't have it be random. Set yourself a number, what you would like it to be. You have much more likelihood of getting to that number, or at least in the ballpark of that number, if you have a clear number, right? So don't just wait to see what happens. Be intentional and create what happens. Yeah. Once you have a number, you can start to develop an action plan and take actions that are in alignment with you having your sales number occur. Yeah. It's super powerful. So what I'm inviting you to do here on this slide is, create your annual sales revenue goal, how much you're going to sell, right, for the year. And then you can divide that number by 12, right? If you have pretty steady monthly sales, month to month to month. And then a monthly sales goal, right? And some of you will have maybe a very seasonal kind of business. That's possible, right? Farmers, for instance, right? You have a lot of expenses in the spring. You have a lot of income in the, summer and fall, and then you got nothing in the winter, right? So we have to account for that seasonality. So for those of you that have seasonality in your business, instead of dividing by 12, you'll look at your past years of sales, right? And you'll say, oh, okay, I usually do 6% of my total sales for the year in January, and I usually do 9% of my total sales for the year in February, and so on. And so you'll figure it out by the percentage of the annual number that you usually do in a given month, right? Now, once you have your monthly sales goals, you can divide by 4.33. That's the number of weeks in a month we use in business. So you take your monthly revenue goal. Let's say my monthly revenue goal is 4,000. So I take 4,000 divided by 4.33, and then I'll have a weekly sales number, right? Do you see how we're getting clarity in the space of sales here, right? We're getting clarity and we're empowering you, right? Because clarity is empowerment, actually. You know where you are, so you can do something about it, right? Before too much more time goes by being aware, right? Some people say a simple awareness is often curative. So you'll have then a weekly sales number that you know you need to make. And for those of you who are really on top of your sales game, you can even divide it out by the number of days of the week that you're open. So say if I'm open 5 days a week, then I'm going to take my weekly sales goal and divide it by 5. And then I will have a daily number, right? And I know how much I need to sell each day in order to stay current towards my annual sales goal, right? Or if I'm getting behind, I know it and I can do something about it before it gets worse. Yeah. So then if you do all of this, you will have arrived at your daily sales number. And now, if you want to get really intentional at like sales professionals do, they actually split it out by the hour too. And they say, okay, I need to have X many sales occur each hour. So depending on what kind of business you have, you can look at whether even that makes sense as well to know exactly where you are in your daily sales goal each hour. So I hope that you'll figure out, you know, what version of this will be useful for you, and then take on this exercise. Annual revenue number, divide by 12, or account for seasonality if you need to. Get a monthly number, and then divide by 4.33 to get your weekly sales number. And then divide by the number of days a week that your business is open to get a daily sales number. That way you can track exactly where am I each day, and you can make something happen. If you don't measure your sales or you're not like actively paying attention to what's going on in sales, then you know your results are random, not intentional. So this kind of brings up some entrepreneurial mindset conversation, right? We want to be proactive about selling. Many people who have a retail type business, or let's say I see it a lot with retail brick and mortar and restaurants. We wait for business to happen to us. We wait to see if it happens to us. And often it doesn't in the way that we want. That is too passive of a stance for an entrepreneur to have, right? In a service business, most of us who have had a service business could never get away with that, right? We have to be more proactive and more intentional about sales. And that's why I'm saying set some specific goals for yourself, right? So that you have a sales game, which you can measure and track every day. So yeah, you got to take on being accountable for sales. So for a lot of us, we have some conversation in our head about, you know, salespeople, right? Being slimy or manipulative or something like that, right? And so you really have to clean that up for yourself in your own head, right? As you are taking on your sales game. You don't have to feel guilty about selling, just saying, right? For most of you, and I hope all of you, the value of what you're offering should be way more than anything you're charging for it. So you don't have to feel guilty about selling. And hopefully your product or service is useful to people, valuable to people, right? So you can feel very good about putting it into your customers' hands, especially the right customer who needs that product, needs that service, or it's highly valuable to them. It makes a difference for them, right? So you want to show up to your sales conversations from a place of, you know, I'm here to serve. I'm here to be a service. Not everyone's a fit. Some will be, some won't be, you know? So when you create your sales numbers, there's a way that you relate to them, right? This is how it works when you're creating your cash flow projections too, by the way, right? Cash flow projections are where we get a big Excel spreadsheet, right? And we say, what is all the money in and all the money out to the business each month, month by month by month, money in, money out for the month, each month, month by month. So we can start to see, oh, where do our expenses fall? Where does our income come in? Are we going to have any shortfalls, right? And that way we can plan for that. We can also use our cash flow projections to test, am I ready to hire a part-time employee? You can actually see that in the numbers. If you have your cash flow projections, we can run that test and see, oh, okay, here's the cost of the person, their salary, the payroll taxes associated with having them there. And here's the additional income that would come into the business if we had them there. And we can actually see how it pencils out, right? So cash flow projections are really useful for that. And cash flow projections also can act like the budget for the business, right? So when you first go to do cash flow projections, right, and you're estimating what is the money that's going to come in for each month for the year. And at first it feels like you're totally guesstimating, right? Just, you're like, especially if you're a startup, right? And you don't have history yet, you might be like, I don't know what's going to happen, right? I'm totally making up a number, right? And that can happen, and that's fine, right? You got to start somewhere. But over time, as you work on this, and if you work, especially with your SBDC advisor, someone like that, on your cash flow projections, over time, you will change your relationship to those income projections, right? Your sales numbers will start to get real for you, and you'll look at them and go, yep, that's probably exactly what's going to happen, right? And you shift your relationship from one of guessing or speculating to creating an intention. Like, okay, that's the number I'm out to get right there. And then your brain goes to work, right? How could I make that number happen? What would I have to do to actually cause that number to occur, right? And you are setting your, we call it reticular activating system, right? This is the part of your brain that you tell it when something's important. And now it starts to notice that thing and notice opportunities, right? Because you've programmed it to go to work on that. For instance, if I say, I want to buy a brown Ford King Ranch pickup, something like that. Suddenly, I start seeing brown King Ranch Ford pickups everywhere. Why is that? They were there before. Just now I've programmed my reticular activating system. Now I'm noticing them everywhere, right? I'm seeing a lot more of them because now I'm paying attention to them. It's the same with your sales goals, right? You're going to set your sales goals, and then your brain is going to go to work on, how could I? What would I have to do to get that, to make that number? I wonder what opportunities are available to me. Who would I have to meet with to land a big contract to make that number occur? Who would I need to have a sales conversations with to cause that number to occur? So you'll start looking for opportunities, and you will hear and see opportunities that you would not have otherwise seen. That's just how it works, right? So you have your guesstimating and predicting at the first level with your income projections. When you're looking into the future saying, how much do I think I'm going to sell each month? Then you change your relationship to those numbers to, that is my intention. That is what I'm out to create. Now let me look, what is on my action list that I could do today, right? Make your action list. And then each day when you show up to work on this, you can pick one. What's on the action list? Take one of those actions that actually can forward your sales. Yeah. And then if you get really good and over time, right, you can even practice creating a revenue goal that you're like, that's my commitment, which is even stronger than an intention, right? Meaning I'm getting that number, period. Amen. I'm getting that number. I'm going to make that number happen. And then you have to devise a sufficient action plan to make sure that number will occur. Now, if your action list, your list of actions you would take to make that number happen is sufficient, then, you know, I could say to you, okay, let's look at your action list. And you could say, if I do everything on this action list, there is no way that number will not occur, right? That number is going to happen if I do everything on this action list, period. That's the kind of strength your action list should have, right? It should be a long enough list, a strong enough list that you could bet me your house. If I do everything on here, there is no way that I could miss my number. I'm probably going to do well more than my number if I do everything on my action list. That is the kind of action list that you need, right? So also, there's that Goethe quote, right? When one is committed, all manner of unforeseen events unfold and meetings and things show up to support you out of your being committed to your number. Just saying, right? That's kind of how the universe works. It's really interesting and fun, right? You get all these delightful surprises because now you have literally gone to work to create that number. And then all this support shows up for you in the course of that. It's really amazing. So let's distinguish here sales versus marketing versus lead generation, and these kind of get all entangled into one big hairball. And so I like to kind of pull them apart a little bit. So many people think that doing marketing is selling. That is often not true unless your operation is strictly an e-commerce operation, right? Where your sales conversations are taking place on your website with your user. Other than that, you know, sales are a conversation with a human being, right? So sales conversations are generally belly to belly, human to human, right? And a lot of people think that a lot of people use marketing to avoid selling. But marketing doesn't replace selling. Just saying. For most of us, it does not. Yeah. So marketing's job is to give us more opportunities to have sales conversations. So if we've done good marketing, we have more leads, which gives me an opportunity to have more sales conversations with people and to get sales in the door, contracts in the door, products out the door, right? So it's a little bit of a mindset shift for people, I think, because being in sales conversations can be confronting for people. A lot of people use marketing time to avoid selling time, when sales conversations are actually the thing that would make a difference for you, yeah, and move your sales forward. So hopefully marketing is generating leads so that you can have more sales conversations with those leads and bring them on as new customers. Does that make sense to everybody? Hopefully everyone's tracking with me here. Okay. So if you hadn't already, one cool thing you can do is actually map out, like draw a little flow chart. What is your sales process, right? And that might include some marketing steps, but it also hopefully is going to include some sales conversations. Unless, like I said, you might have a strictly e-commerce situation, then that will be a different deal. But some of this will still apply, actually. So here are a couple examples. If my sales are inbound, let's say the calls come into me, maybe I put out an ad. There's a little bit of attraction in there, right? If I'm put out an ad to pull someone in, no problem. Or maybe people just call me, they know about me in the community, or they recognize my brand. So the prospect calls you and you have a sales conversation with them. Let's say they book an appointment. And then let's say they show up for their appointment and then they book a next appointment before they leave, right? This would be like a hair salon conversation right here. So someone calls, actually I went scheduled a hair appointment for myself like this, exactly this way recently. So I called a new salon. We had a sales conversation. I booked an appointment. I will then show up for that appointment. And then hopefully if my new hair person is on top of her game, then she will ask me to book my next appointment before I leave the first one. And hopefully, she might also, if she sees I'm really happy with my hair, she's going to ask me, hopefully, for referrals or for a review, right? So I'm giving you some pieces and parts to include in your sales process if you don't have them in there already, right? Always ask for referrals and ask for reviews. That's a way to generate more leads, warm leads, actually. In many cases, like referrals would be warm leads, right? Someone they're referring someone they know to you. So there's also the outbound possibility. Let's say I'm a salesperson and I'm selling newspaper ads or online ads, something like that. So I identify my prospects, and then I would call my prospect to book a needs assessment or discovery conversation, right? We have our conversation appointment, and then maybe I develop a quote for them or a contract or proposal. Customer may sign it and just say, great, let's go ahead, or they may negotiate some points. Then we update the contract if needed, and then we go ahead, right? Customer signs the contract and gives me a deposit, and I begin the work, right? And then as I'm working in that job, or at least by the completion of the job, if my customer is happy, right, which hopefully they are, then I'm going to ask them for referrals and ask them for a review in whatever is my best review format. So for some of you, maybe you collect Google reviews, and having good Google reviews can actually help you with your search engine optimization, right? So Google shows your site to more people if you have 5-star Google reviews, right? Or maybe if you have a bed and breakfast business, then, TripAdvisor is where you want to get your reviews, or Yelp is where you want to get your reviews, depending on what kind of business you have. So if you don't have it written down or create it on your computer in a document, sales process, I would recommend that you create one so that you can understand and distinguish what are each of the steps in the sales process, and see if there's anything missing that you need to add, right? Which would help you, like asking for reviews or asking for referrals or asking for testimonials, right? These are all things that can help you support increasing your sales. Okay, so there's a little investment sometimes that you make in generating leads. One kind of investment you could make is just a time investment to generate leads. That would be meaning research. You go online, you find your avatar clients, and you add them to your list to hit up, right? So that might be a way of getting leads that only cost you time, not money, right? So that can be useful if you're in a tight budget situation at the moment. Yeah. Also, you could invest in an inbound system like what we just were talking about. So if you're going to create, let's say, an online marketing funnel to pull leads into you and help people go through that sales process and trust building process over time using technology, then there's usually a financial investment for that, right? There's pieces to the funnel, the marketing funnel technology. And there's what we call ad spend, right? Money that you spend on online advertising that feeds people into that funnel once you set it up. The great news about that, though, is once you set it up and you get it working right, it now becomes your business ATM system, right? You know that every time you put $100 into ads, that you get $1,000 in sales. You've built a system which creates that, right? And you've tested the system and you know it produces in that manner. So that's very powerful. It takes time and money, a little bit of learning curve, right? To get all that going and put together. You can also hire it all out, right? But you want to understand, what's in your system, I would say. But the beauty of those is it's now automated, right? As long as you're have good ads and your ads are feeding the funnel, then you will get money out of that funnel. You can also outsource your lead generation. Let's say you could say, my avatar client is, people who own yachts or something like that. And you could say, I'm going to buy a list of the people who subscribe to Yachting Magazine, right? Something like that. So think of how it would be in your particular situation, right? Depending on what kind of business you have and who your ideal client is. What publications does your ideal client subscribe to, where you might be able to just buy that subscription list or advertise in that publication, something like that. But if you buy the subscription list, you have more control, right? You have their information so you can follow up. That reminds me, I see a lot of people like, oh, I'm going to go to this event and hand out business cards. Okay, great. You're going to hand out business cards, but the real power is in getting their business card, not only handing them out, right? If you hand them out, you have no power to follow up with them, right? But if you get their card, you capture their information. Now you have the ability to add them to your email list, to make a call, to set up an appointment. Now you have a way to follow up with them. So it's more important to get their card than to give them yours, although you can certainly do both, right? So hopefully this all is just getting you thinking here. So we were talking about online marketing funnels, right? Online marketing funnels. So I want to give you some examples here. So when we say online marketing funnel, we might mean one of these two possible sequences. So we might have an ad, let's say Facebook or Instagram ad or YouTube ad. And when someone clicks through on the ad, it goes over to our landing page, right, where we want to convert people. And let's say in this case, the conversion that we want is that they sign up for a free webinar, right? So if they come to my free webinar, I provide value, I build trust, I build rapport. Some of the people who come to my free webinar are going to schedule a one-on-one sales call with me, let's say. And then out of that, some of those are going to buy whatever program I'm selling. So this sequence works really well if you have a high ticket item. If you have a lower ticket item, you don't have to build as much trust and rapport and expert credibility, right, to have a sale occur. But if you have a premium priced item, you do, right? You've got to build more trust, rapport, demonstrate your expertise, provide value, right? People buy from people they know, like, and trust. And when you have a high ticket item, you need a higher level of that know, like, and trust. And even I would say admiration, probably. You might need to be someone that your customer admires to sell a high ticket item to them. So there's a number 2 example here. It could be some search engine optimization or some kind of online advertisement. Maybe it's a banner ad. Let's say you do B2B, business to business. It could be a banner ad on your local Chamber of Commerce website, something like that. And so when they click on that banner ad, they go to your landing page or website, right? Hopefully it's a landing page, because generally landing pages convert better than whole websites, right? So instead of sending them to your home page, I'd recommend that you send them to a landing page that is especially for one purpose, that purpose is whatever the conversion is that you're looking for. They schedule an appointment. They sign up for your free webinar. They give you their email address, right? Whatever conversion it is that you're looking for, the singular focus of your landing page is just that, right? It's sort of like landing pages are like when you have a guardrails on the bowling alley, you have the little bumpers up so you can only go, the bowling ball can only go down the lane. That's kind of how landing pages are. By definition, they don't have navigation. The reason they don't have navigation is because we don't want to take people off to do anything else. We only want them to do one thing when they come to the landing page, and that is convert, right? Whatever that conversion is that we want them to do, which, like I said, could be free webinar, they sign up, could be they give us their email address, could be they download something, could be they buy something, it could be all number of different things. So in this case, we're going to say the conversion is they give us their email address, and in exchange, we give them a free downloadable of value, right? We call that a lead magnet. A lead magnet is a free downloadable that your prospect would be interested in, right? Maybe it's 10 tips to whatever, right? Let's say if you're a web designer, it could be 10 tips, for how to choose your web designer, something like that. It'd be a free downloadable. They give their email address and they get this downloadable. So with that lead magnet, I'm providing them with value, right? Maybe I email them and provide them with some more value, right, that they would be interested in. And at some point, I'm going to make an offer. Usually there's some kind of ratio here, which is like 4 to 7 to 1. So I'm going to provide value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, something like that, and then make an offer. Provide value 1, 2, 3, 4 times, then make an offer, right? And that's how my email broadcasting series will work. So I'm provide value, and then offer, and so on. And there's a bit of a rhythm to that. Now, once you have people in your system, then it's on you to follow up. Marketing guru Dan Kennedy says, follow up until they buy or die. That's kind of harsh, but you get the idea, right? You keep following up forever until they say no or unsubscribe or they buy something from you, right? So that's where you can also follow up with them by other means too. Now that they're on your list, maybe you've collected their mailing address, you could send them a piece of direct mail, which supports the sales conversation you're having with them. You could make a phone call to them if you collected their phone number. There's all kinds of things you can do by way of follow up to convert people who you already know to be interested in your product or service. And it helps to have a good CRM system, right? A customer relationship management system, CRM system, to hold all your customer data and to be able to do automated email broadcasting, right? And I list here at the bottom some of these, some of the very robust CRM systems, right? At the basic level, you would have like MailChimp, Aweber, Constant Contact, right? At the more advanced level, Ontraport, something like that. And then ClickFunnels, Kajabi, and Keap, formerly known as Infusionsoft. These are all very robust CRM systems that they can host landing pages. They have landing page templates. You can host video on them. You can have a series of email broadcasts set up in those systems. So here's the beauty of these systems, right? Remember I said this online marketing funnel could be your business ATM. Here's what I mean by that. Let's say I'm doing the number 1 sequence on this slide, right? I put $100 into Facebook ads, let's say, and some percentage of the people who see my ad are going to click on it. And once I test and experiment, I'm going to know what that percentage is. I know every time I show my ad to X many of my target audience, a certain percentage are going to click through on the ad. When they do click through, they're going to go onto the landing page, right? And a certain percentage of the people who go to the landing page will actually convert. They'll register for my free webinar, right? Now, a certain percentage of those who register for my free webinar will actually show up for the webinar. A certain percentage of those who show up for my free webinar will stay through the whole thing. And a percentage of those who stay through the whole thing will book a one-on-one sales call with me. And a certain percentage of those who book a one-on-one sales call with me will buy my premium priced program, right? So this is just an example of how that ATM could work. So then I would know, okay, every time I put $100 into Facebook ads, I get $1,000 or however much, right, out of that investment. Well, that is a very good return on my investment, right? So I'm going to keep running that ad and keep using that landing page and keep running my free webinar every time I can, right? Because if I could trade you, you know, I'll give you 100 if you'll give me 1,000, right? I mean, wow, you're going to make that trade every chance you get, aren't you? Well, that's why it's for many of us worth it to set up, test, and figure out this whole system, right? Because this can be on the marketing side of life, this can be your business ATM, right? It's bringing you leads and warming them up so that you can have a sales conversation with them and have closed sales, contracts in the door, money in the door to your business. So if you choose the first option that we talked about, which was I only want to invest time in getting some leads, right? And maybe I have a tight budget right now, and so I can't invest some money in getting some leads. Okay, so here are some places you can do a little research. If you do, let's say, maybe you do business to consumer, or maybe B2C, right? Or maybe you do business to business kind of services or products, and that would be B2B. You can look in association lists, membership lists online, membership directories, right? Where your avatar client or ideal client is a member. Might be a Chamber of Commerce directory online or an Economic Development Council. You can also use, if your state publishes the list of licensed businesses, for instance. You can also use a, well, this is a paid option here, but if you paid a list broker, they can find lists of the particular avatar client that you have, right? Thank you for everything you're putting in the chat. I have not read them yet. Just want to say we're going to have some Q&A time too. So we'll go through all your questions here too. So I could also use my own time to access databases for free to try to find businesses that would be a good lead or consumers that would be a good lead. Oops. Here we go. So I want to show you a reference database. It's called Reference USA. It just a couple years ago was bought out by a company called Data Axle. So now it's technically known as Reference Solutions by Data Axle. And I'm going to show it to you live in my browser window here in a few minutes. But what a lot of people don't know is many libraries pay to have access for their users to Reference USA. And so they pay so we can access it for free as a library card holder. So I don't know, libraries are just like one of the most best kept secrets or unsung heroes, I think, that we could make use of in our business, right? So get yourself a library card. Usually they're free or very inexpensive, and it might give you access to something like Reference USA. I'm going to show you my particular library system website so you can see what it looks like a little bit here. And I just list the steps on this slide, what you have to click on to get into there. So you're going into reference databases. There's a section for business, legal, and grant seekers. And then you can see one of the options is Reference USA. And then you can click on either, let's say you want to see, it lists all the businesses in the US. It lists all the new businesses in the US, meaning they started in the last 5 years. Right. It also lists consumers. It has white pages of consumers that you can look up. So if you want to find leads to call on, if you're marketing to businesses, this is a great tool. Or if you want to find leads, even if you're marketing to consumers, you can use this list or database as well. And you can pull your data and slice and dice it all kinds of different ways. But just remember, some people are on the do not call list, usually not businesses, usually individuals, but we are obligated to check the do not call list before we start making sales calls to random folks, right, who we might find online. So just be aware of that. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing my slides for a moment and take you over to my browser window and show you this website. Okay. So we're in Reference USA. We're in the library site, about to go into Reference USA. We can see we're in the category Business, Legal, and Grant Seekers. And we're going to scroll down here, Reference Solutions by Data Axle, formerly known as Reference USA. We're going to click on that one. Okay. Hold on just a second because it's going to ask me to log in again. It wants to track how many users are actually using this. So it's going to have me log back in. Oh, no. Okay. Well, let's see. We'll try again, see if we can get into Reference USA here. This would be a good time while I'm getting this sorted out to type whatever questions have come up for you into the chat so we can get to those in just a minute. Let's see if it will let me in. Ah, here we go. Oh, it let us in and then kicked us back out. All right. Okay, well, I'm going to go back to my slides then and I'll just tell you about it. Okay, so when you go into Reference USA, and there's other database tools like it, by the way, too, you can look up all different kinds of data. So you can look up if you do business to business, right? You could say, show me all the businesses within my zip code. You could say, let's say if you market to web designers, you could say, show me all the people who are using the industry code, the NAICS code for web design in a certain area. Could be the country, could be the state, could be your city, could be your county. It could be a certain zip code, right? So you can look up very specific information. Some people use this tool to actually see a heat map of where all the businesses in your industry are located. And they'll use that information to decide where to place their business, their physical location, because they can see where the underserved areas are in their industry. You can also look up consumers. Let's say you want to serve affluent consumers, you have a premium product, and you know that these are certain affluent zip codes within the US, right? You can look that up on Google pretty easily. So you could say, oh, okay, I'm going to find the consumer list, that list of households that are in certain zip codes, and I'm going to send them a direct mail piece or a series of direct mail pieces, something like that, right? These are different ways you can use Reference USA to find consumers or to find businesses very specifically, not just all businesses or all humans, but your avatar, right? Your ideal client very specifically. Maybe you have a dental office and you just serve, 10 square miles around your dental office. Fine. You can find all the households, in that zip code or 10 square mile space, let's say, on Reference USA. So it's a really cool tool. Yeah. So I just want to give you a number of different ways that you can generate additional leads for your business and find more prospects. So you can use this tool, by the way, also for competitive research. You want to scope out your competitor businesses who are using your same NAICS code or industry code, right? They're in your same industry. You can look them up in the Reference USA system, and it will tell you, what is their estimated annual income to that business? How many employees does it think they have? Where are they located? And so on. Some of this information can be out of date, right? So I wouldn't take it too literally, right? Dun & Bradstreet actually calls on businesses each year and asks people, what was your annual income, right? Some people give that information, some people don't. They make an estimation of the annual income of each business in Reference USA based on that Dun & Bradstreet number and whatever information they are able to get. So you can actually look up yourself. You can look up your own business in Reference USA and see what it says about you. That could be interesting too. And also maybe all your local competitors. Okay, so all that was about lead gen there. Let's move over to the sales conversation we were talking about. So here's an example of the exercise that I described earlier, right? We set an annual revenue goal. Let's say, oops, my numbers are off here. Sorry about that. I'm just seeing, wow, that doesn't make sense. But you get the idea. You have an annual revenue number. You divide that by 12 and it gives you a monthly number. You divide that by 4.33, right? The number of weeks in a month in business. And that gives us a weekly number. And then we have a daily number based on how many days a week our business is open. So we take our weekly number divided by 5 days a week, if that's how many days a week we're open. And now we have a daily sales number. And then if we're really on top of our sales game, we even might have an hourly sales number. We know how much we need to sell per hour. So sorry that the numbers don't jive here, but you get exactly, hopefully, what I'm saying here and could make your own example, right? If you use your own number to do this exercise. So let's say that my primary revenue stream is from my famous widget, my widget A, which sells for $50. Then I can see here if my minimum hourly sales number, and I sell, let's say 4 hours a day, is $48 an hour, then I obviously have to sell one widget A every hour to stay on target with my sales game. So hopefully each of you will make a chart like this too. I think these are super fun. Take your annual sales number and then list all the different ways that might look, that might occur, right? If I want to sell $500,000 this year, right? I could sell at the center of the slide here, the one at a time method, right? I could sell I could have 10,000 sales at $50 each Wow, I'm getting tired just saying that, right? That's the exhausting way to get to 500,000. Or I could do any of these other options. I could have 100 deals at 5,000 a piece. Let's say that's 100 units of my $50 item. I could have 10 deals at 50,000 each, right? Hopefully all you're thinking wholesale orders here, maybe not just retail, but also wholesale can balance you out. I could do 10 deals at 50,000 each, where I'm selling 1,000 units with each of those sales and get to my 500,000. I could also go after one deal for 10,000 units, and that's my whole number, right? So for each of you, I want you to look at what if all the different ways that your sales could occur, right? What if you made your whole annual sales number with 1 sale, 3 sales, 5 sales, 10 sales, something like that? Or what would it look like if you did the one at a time method and kind of everything in between, right? Maybe you usually sell $2,000 contracts, but you could start selling $10,000 contracts, right? Now you've upped your average unit sale by a lot, right? And you can reach your sales goal a lot easier. A lot of people say, oh, okay, it takes the same amount of energy to have a sales conversation, let's say, to sell a $100 item or to sell a $1,000 item. So sell some $1,000 items, right? If you have them, right? You can kind of get the thinking here. So for each of you, write down what are all the different ways your annual number might come in. It might be that you have, 10 deals at this price and 5 deals at that price and 1 deal at some other price, something like that. The way that your whole number could be made up. This is going to, again, trigger your reticular activating system, get you paying attention to opportunities at each of these different levels, right? Now you're on the hunt for one $500,000 deal. Oh my gosh, what might that look like? Who would the customer be? Who would be that? Maybe it's the government. Maybe it's the military base. Maybe it's, Costco. Who knows what it is for each of you, but start thinking, who could I do these bigger deals with where they'd buy a bunch of my product, not just the onesie twosies, right? It's nice to have a mix of wholesale and retail a lot of times, right? Because with wholesale, you have maybe a commitment, a contract for people to buy over a period of time. Let's say if you were buying coaching services, then, we'd have a contract. Maybe it'd be for 6 months or a year, and you'd get a little volume discount for buying 6 months or a year, right? But I also, once we had that signed contract, I would know I have that booked business out into the future. This is what gives you financial security as an entrepreneur, right? So I could say to you, so-and-so, how much money do you have booked into October right now? And there would be some number there, right? It would not be a blank, empty slate. You would have already have contracts signed, let's say, for a wholesale buyer who's buying from you a minimum amount each month. You already know they're going to buy X much in October, right? And this is how, if you start to stack these wholesale contracts, right? Or it could be subscriptions or membership, something like that. If you sell to consumers, this is how you build the bread and butter, right? The main income for your business. And then your retail sales, where you have a higher profit margin, but maybe a lower volume, right? So it's a good mix sometimes to have both. Hopefully this gets you thinking about different ways your sales might look. So how do you win at this sales game conversation, right? You Here are some ideas. You increase your average unit sale, right? You're always trying to increase your average unit sale. If you usually sell $50 every time someone buys, how could you sell 100 every time someone buys, right? You might bundle or upsell, something like that. Get more leads. And here's the biggest one. Have more sales conversations, right? For most people, maybe 90% of the time, we are strictly just not having enough sales conversations. And that is the thing that's in the way, right? We just got to start having more sales conversations. We got to start talking to people, talking to our avatar, our ideal client about buying and asking for the sale, right? Don't forget that part. A lot of people do, right? Ask for the sale in that sales conversation. Another thing you can do to increase your sales is increase your close ratio, right? That means if I talk to 1 out of 10, if I talk to 10 people, I sell 1, right? That's my close ratio, 1 out of 10. But over time, I'm going to get better and better. So I'm going to be more effective. Maybe I'm going to close 3 out of 10 or 5 out of 10 eventually, right? So I'm increasing my close ratio. So my sales conversations that I'm having, I could have the same number of sales conversations, but I'm getting more sales out of the same number of conversations because now my close ratios increased. You can raise your prices. That's another way to increase sales, right? Then you're increasing your average unit sale, right? It might make you more profitable, hopefully, right? You could change your position in the market. You could say, oh, I've been kind of mid-level provider in my space, or maybe I've been low price provider and I'm competing on price. I could actually shift and say, oh, I'm going to now offer a premium version of my product or service, and I'm going after the premium buyers who can afford the high-end stuff, right? And so you can change your positioning to premium. You can charge more when you're a premium provider, and you can change who your avatar client is. You might say, oh, this avatar client that I had, it isn't really working out. They aren't able to buy enough. So I'm going to shift to a higher end provider. Okay. So another example here. So if my average unit sale is $50 and I know, and this is actually true for me, so I'm telling you something real here. So when I was doing cold calls for my web design business to other businesses, I could actually do 10 an hour, right? So sometimes you reach people, sometimes you don't reach people, sometimes you have a longer conversation, sometimes you have a shorter conversation, but my average was 10 per hour. Yeah. And let's say if a close ratio was 1 out of 10, then I can expect I'm going to be selling $50 an hour, right? Until I increase my average unit sale or I increase my close ratio, one or the other, or maybe both. So if I do 10 calls an hour for 4 hours a day, then I will have $200 in sales, right? Based on my current ratios. And then the more I practice, I'm going to start increasing that number. So I'm going to get more sales per hour. This is like the stuff that sales professionals do, by the way. This is how sales professionals think about sales and participate in making something happen, right? So part of it is an identity shift, like we talked about. You have to start to think about yourself as a salesperson, not a slimy salesperson, a person of service, a person who's out to make a difference, a person who's out to do social good through your business, right? Isn't that why you got into business to begin with? Hopefully. Hopefully there's some kind of good you wanted to do. That's why you got in business. Anyway, I'm going to send you a copy of my sales tracking, like sales metrics spreadsheet. right? It's just a little Word doc with a table in there, right? And here are some of the things that you can measure for in sales, right? If you're serious about taking on sales, you use one of these, right? Otherwise, it would be random whether your goals occur. So you have maybe something like a number of calls per day, a number of appointments booked. Let's say if you're booking needs assessment appointments or discovery conversations, maybe the number of appointments held, maybe it's a number of proposals or contracts out, right? That people could quote, that people can say yes to, the number of signed ones that come back in, and the number of dollars those contracts represent, right? This is what I did in my web business. These were my sales activities that I measured for every day and kept them going. This is how I got momentum, right? And built a business doing web design using this method. I was doing B2B, right? Business to business. And by the way, here's the bottom line. Who is accountable for sales in your company? I would assert that if you are the owner, it's you. You are accountable for making sales happen, right? You can delegate that, but ultimately the buck stops with you, right? If you're the owner, if you don't have sales, your business can't continue. So you are ultimately the one, right, who is accountable for making sales occur. So a way to take responsibility for that accountability is to have some kind of tracking system, right, where you know your sales goals for each time frame, and you're actually taking action each day or certain days of the week, certain hours of the day, right, to cause sales to occur. You are actively taking action to make sales happen. Okay, just a couple more pieces here, and then we're going to get into the Q&A. So how can you increase your close ratio, right? One way is just practice. Straight up practice and repetition will help you increase your close ratio. Listen to your prospects and your customers. What do they need and want? Once you hear how they speak, you'll know how to speak back to them. Clarify your intention, right? Come to your sales calls or whatever sales activities you're doing with an intent to be of service, right? What is the difference between sales and manipulation? It's intent, your intent as the salesperson, right? So you either are intending to be of service to the person, period, whether or not they buy, or you're intending to be manipulative, or you have some kind of underlying motive other than being of service, right? So if you come to your sales conversations with the intent to be of service, they will go better. They will go well. You will feel good. You don't have to feel guilty about selling when you're showing up to be a service and you're doing good for the people that you work with. You got to, again, remember the value, right, of the product or service. So write out a script or some bullet points, right? So you know what to say. Practice in front of a mirror. That can be really, really helpful, right? Do your sales calls standing up. If you're going to make calls, do them standing up with a smile on, maybe in front of a mirror, so you can see if you are projecting confidence, relatedness, connection, friendliness, funness. Bring your sense of humor, levity, right? And have an intent that you're going to lift someone's day, no matter how the conversation goes. Yeah, these can all be a great help. Another great exercise you can do as a homework from today is write a list of the top 10 objections or concerns that you hear when it comes to your product or service. And then write down 3 different ways to address each one. So top 10 objections, and then for each one, write down 3 different ways that you can overcome that objection or address that concern. And then keep those near you when you are having sales conversations. You could also address these concerns or objections preemptively in your sales presentation or conversation. And as we're saying, of course, come to your sales conversations with an intent to serve, an intent to do good, an intent to be related and have a fun conversation. And it helps if you have at least one thing in common with them, right? Also, if you've done your due diligence and researched your prospect, you know something about them, that's even more helpful, right? Then you know what you have in common with them. Let's see here. Oh, only do win-win deals. Of course, there's enough deals out there, right, to be done. So only do the win-win deals. Why would you do any other kind of deal, right? There's so many win-wins that you could go after. And consider when you're doing like your pricing and your sales conversations, the value to them, right? So don't think only on your side. What does it cost me to make this product? I mean, you're going to think of that stuff, but not only that stuff. Yeah. What does it cost me to make this? What is my time worth? What is my expertise worth? Right. But that's still you focused, right? Also think of something them focused, which is what is the value of it to them? And hopefully it is way more than anything you're charging them, right? And that's why you can feel great about selling, because the value of your product or service to them is hopefully way more than whatever you're charging them. Yeah. And of course, as we were saying, you know, just straight up have more sales conversations. Most people are just not having enough sales conversations. And so just starting to measure for the number of sales conversations you have each day will start to move the dial. So I'm going to share with you the script I used when I made cold calls to entire Chamber of Commerce directories. I would say, I'm so-and-so with so-and-so company. I'm a fellow member of the whatever Chamber of Commerce, or it could be a fellow, you know, tennis buff, or just you need one thing you have in common with them. So if you can find that out before you call, that'd be great. If I was calling on Chamber of Commerce directories, then I'm a fellow member of the so-and-so Chamber of Commerce, and I'm calling to find out, you know, who you are, what you all are up to, and to share what I'm up to, and to see whether maybe we should be working together, or we could be referral partners and send business to each other. Maybe I can help you in some way. Can we schedule a half-hour coffee meeting or Zoom meeting, right? And we would just meet up and share, right? Another chamber member, they have to listen to you, right? Because they want you to listen to them. Also, they want people to learn about their business too, right? So just by having this one thing in common, you can establish rapport and set up these conversations and make something happen out of those conversations. Sales. So if you want some help with scripting, what should I say? Here are some resources for that. Jim Rohn, he's the master. So many great videos on YouTube of Jim Rohn. If you want to get inspired about sales, watch his Jim Rohn videos. Just saying. Here are some other experts too. Eric Lofholm, Geeta Nadkarni, a lot of Nightingale Conant audio programs and publications. Many of these have great sales scripts in them, which you can use to help you develop your confidence when you're having sales conversations, whether they're on the phone or Zoom or in person and so forth. So schedule some time and hold yourself accountable for that sales time. It helps if you do it the same time each day. So every day, 9 to 12 is your sales time, or every Friday, 2 to 4, or whatever it is for you, right? But if you do it at the same time each day or each week, you build good sales habits. So here are some possible next steps, some things you could take out of the conversation today. Take your pick, do whichever one's fit for you, right? Hopefully you made some notes and have some homeworks written down for yourself that you can take forward from this conversation. Okay. Mandy knows where to find me, and here's her email. So just wanted to give you that. And let's get into the chat and the Q&A here. I'm going to stop share so I can see your video feeds.
If you all have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the chat or unmute yourself and ask questions. Now is a great time. Okay, so I'm just going to go down the list in the chat here. Can SBDC help with SEO? I would say yes, there are marketing people within the SBDC world. And there's also classes with SBDC that you could take on SEO. Actually, I might be presenting one of those before too long here. Yeah. So there is stuff out there for SEO help, one-on-one or webinar training. Let's see here. Excellent. I see some trainings listed right here. Thank you, Mandy, for all that you typed in here. Yes, I've been victim to some of those relentless subscribe or die, buy or die email campaigns. Yeah. And if you're interested, you might keep getting those emails for a long time. You might actually buy. But if you are not that interested, or the wording is not resonant with you, like, oh my gosh, this is so for me. This is so good. This is so good. If you're not saying that when you're getting those emails, then you may unsubscribe. Yeah. But it's okay, because the people who are interested and into it and are likely to buy are still going to stay subscribed. Let's see. I see some more conversation here. Is Reference USA something that needs to be only used at the library, or can I access from my office? I think it would be prohibitively expensive, perhaps, to pay for access to it yourself. I don't know what the cost is, but I know it's a pretty significant investment for libraries. But can it be accessed from your office through a library website? Yes, that can happen. And usually, like I was going to do the demo today, usually we can just go online, log into our library website, and access Reference USA. So you can use it from remote. Some libraries require that you be logged in, though, to the library website. Great comments here. Yes, thanks, everyone. Every no gets you one conversation further towards yes, right? There's a great book. What's it called? Getting More No's or something like that, because the whole point is you're having more sales conversations, right? So if you get more no's, you can celebrate that, right? Because now you're closer to the yes. Perfect. Okay, wonderful. Any more questions? Has everybody got some great ideas that you can apply in your own scenario? Hopefully you've got yourself a homework list. Anybody want to share what's on your homework list? What action you can take from today? Oh my goodness. We have a quiet bunch today. Okay, fair enough. We will be sending out Liz's PDF, so make sure that you look for that. And I also would like to mention that Liz will be here again with us on June 9th and June 16th, because she is going to cover creating successful ad campaigns on Facebook. So I know in Wyoming that a lot of people do use Facebook for marketing their small businesses. And so Liz is going to be here with us to help us learn how to create successful ad campaigns. So that's going to be very exciting. They are going to be June 9th and June 16th at 11 a.m. You can check out our website, wyomingcommunitynavigator.org, and the events up in the upper right-hand corner to register for that. Once again, thank you, Liz, for being here with us and all of the information you provide for us. We really appreciate your time. So everyone else, thank you as well for attending. And hopefully we will see you on June 9th Otherwise, have a great Friday and a great weekend. Bye, everybody.
Go get them. Bye.